And we're live. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to SOAR. Hi, Zane.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I can't complain, really. I know I say that all the time, but nothing to complain about right now.
That's good. That's always a good thing. So welcome, everyone. What we're going to do today is kind of leave the floor open. I can see a few people have already come in. So just kind of drop in, say hi. And if you'd like, you can help us to begin our conversation today. We decided not to really come in with like a hard plan or a topic to talk about. We rather connect with your energy and maybe whatever you're curious about or have any sorts of questions about. That all sounds good to me. What do you think, Zane?
Sure. I'm always open. I like the flying by the seats of my pants. It's how I like to do things. I don't like to really have anything planned because, it puts a limitation on what could be delivered. And I prefer to be in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally on that same path. I like it to be kind of more organic. But I always try to have something in the back pocket just in case I need something to talk about. We have that, but we'll see what happens here. So Shroom Love 85 is here. Good evening, gents. Hi, Kurt.
Hello.
Oh, and look who it is. It's 1 million Buddhas. Mark Myers. Hi, Paco.
Hello, Mark.
Another Paco. Mary B.
Mary. Hey.
Hi. So let's get a conversation started. I don't know. We could just start something here. Zane, what's going on in your world? Is there anything you could say?
There is so much going on right now. So much that I can't wait to share with everyone, but it's premature at this moment to share it because I have no way of following up at this moment with you all. So there's some really cool things coming up just in a couple weeks, but I have to wait until all the plans are set in motion, and they just aren't yet.
Until they're finalized.
And then I would definitely reach out and let everyone know about some cool things coming up.
Cool. Well, speaking about cool things coming up, we'll just put it in right here. What kind of cool things do you have coming up that are kind of set and ready to go?
Well, I've got, don't remember what weekend. It's the third weekend, but I think it's the weekend of the 19th, April 19th, starting a 7-month apprenticeship that's hybrid. It's half live at Goddess Elite in North Olmsted and half online. So we'll be meeting for 7 weekends, not including July. July we take off, but we'll be meeting, and we'll also be doing online classes for that apprenticeship. Then you being one of the mentors and the other mentors, we're going to have a run of the online program. And that's coming up most likely about the second weekend or the second week of May would probably be the start date of that. So that's coming up too. And then, of course, the Modern Shaman's Diet, most likely to be released in April, around the full moon of April there. So that's the things that I have set in stone right now that I can actually share. And if anyone's interested in any of those, please get a hold of me and I can send you to the right places to get that information or to get on board with that.
And if by chance you can't find Zane, feel free to reach out to me. I'll make a connection for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastico. Yeah. The next main thing, I have a bunch of things coming up, but the main thing I have coming up next is April 7th. I'm doing a spirit guide connection and communication workshop. So that's open to everyone, anyone that is curious even. These are even for spiritually curious people that would like to know more about how to communicate with the living energy that's around you or connect to your higher mind or going deeper into yourself and beyond. So you can check that out. Again, that's April 7th. Check that out. We also have a bunch of other online and in-person events. Go to Positive Pineapple and check that out. Tom Thompson's here.
Hello, Tom.
Magical Mike, a Nike. Thank you, Mikey. All right, let's see. I'm going to jump straight in with a question. Perfect. Thanks, Shroom Love. You're right on time. Hope it's okay to ask. When journeying with plant medicine psychedelics, are you going to finish the question? Let's go back up here. Hey, Mark. All right, let's see. Yesterday, I was fascinated by my friend telling me that he had a dream that an albino deer came up and gave him a hug and thanked him for feeding the deer. He feeds them every day in waking life. That's a
Wow. Well,
that's
that's
a cool
great.
kind of thing. All right, let's see. Where does the insight wisdom come from?
Okay, so when you're doing psychedelic or plant medicine journeying, well, I'm going to say this, and I say this a lot. We in the West think that psychedelics and plant medicines are themselves a path toward enlightenment, and they're just not. And we often think that they're like a shortcut to spiritual progress, and they're not. They're not those things. But what they can do is they can clarify certain things in our life. I like to say that they're like filters we put on our consciousness, and they filter, and some information that we would send to the subconscious or the unconscious realms immediately make it through that filter and are what comes up into our experience. But I would just say, if we're not doing it in a traditional standing, the information is most likely coming from your spirit guides and from your higher self. If you're doing it in the context of a traditional ceremony, then it can also be the plant ally itself, the plant intelligence itself. But it's really shaky territory there. When we get those insights, we really have to vet them, in our sober state. We have to go back through them once we have a clear mind and a clear body again. And really, that's when we can explore them for their deeper significance. Those insights most likely are coming from your higher self or from a spirit guide who gets to communicate with you. The danger comes when we have an overly powerful analytical sense. When our analytical mind is overly powerful, it will completely retranslate any light we get. Doesn't just mean the light from a psychedelic journey, but the light from any experience, mystical experience, will get filtered through our intellectual filters. And when it gets filtered through that, we don't get the pure light of it. We get a color of that light. It's like if you have a stained glass window, and the light of the divine is pure and pristine and it's coming through that window, but what comes through is repatterned in a way that makes a picture, that we chose to see. And that's one of the things with psychedelics that we have to be really, really leery about. I mean, truly, we have to be kind of really on our best standing with things like that. All of my teachers would say, don't touch psychedelics until you're completely enlightened. Once you are completely and totally enlightened, you can touch psychedelics, but the truth is you don't see the use in them.
You won't even need them.
Yeah, so that's what my teachers always said. And yes, I did apprentice an ayahuasquero tradition, and I've apprenticed a Wuchamero tradition, which is the San Pedro cactus. And, still in those things, we as Westerners have gone down there and we have created an economy, a whole economy based around plant medicines. And so the traditional teachers have changed their ceremonies and their criteria for entering them. It used to be, honestly, that you rarely went to one of these type of ceremonies unless you were terminally ill. For the most part, that's what it was reserved for. People who were at that stage of illness. It wasn't for mental, emotional things or for giving you like some kind of boost, psychic boost or anything like that. It was used when people were in really dire straits and they just couldn't get out of their own way. And then oftentimes it wasn't used to do a healing. It was used to see if they were capable of wanting to survive, if they had the will to survive and to move forward in life or not. That was a big role that these things once played. And, especially in the ayahuasca tradition, no one but the shamans took ayahuasca in the old days. You went as a sick person or as a person having issues, and you sat there while the shaman drank the brew, and then you sat there while the shaman did healings on you for a few hours after that. And that was more how it was used in the past. That's not always how it was used, but that was the most common way it was used. But when we started going down there and we created a brand new market, and that created some dangers too, because people who aren't qualified to lead people into those journeys stand up and say, hey, I'm going to do that. I'm going to appoint myself as someone who can lead a person through that territory. And, traditionally they would always tell you, especially with ayahuasca, this is a life or death moment. Every time you take it, you might not survive. How's that for set and setting? Completely different than the way we understand psychedelics in the Western world. Create a nice, safe container for the person to go into. No, they would tell you, hey, you might not survive this. You might not live tomorrow. You might not see tomorrow because you could very well die during this experience. And that's how you got set in, because you had to understand that going in. You had to understand that that level of mortality, that level of vulnerability that was required for you to go in and get the most out of that experience. So that's really what I would say about it. Most of those insights are coming from your higher self or your spirit guides. If you did it in a way that evokes and invokes the spirit of the plant medicine, because just because you're taking a psychedelic, the psychedelic journey is not the spirit of the plant medicine. The psychedelic journey is chemicals that the plant created. Most of those chemicals were created to keep things from eating the plant, not the other way around. So people think, oh, the psychedelic journey is the plant teacher. No, it's not. It's just a psychedelic journey. It's just a substance that went into your body and changes the way you perceive reality for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I would say about it, beautiful. Thank you, Zane, that was beautiful information. I would kind of describe it as, when you take the psychedelics, what happens is parts of your brain that don't normally communicate begin to communicate. And as this happens, this changes your frequency. It changes the frequency of your energy field, your brainwave rate, all kinds of things. And you begin to have the ability for at least a short period of time to connect into frequencies of consciousness that you normally cannot. So what makes this really amazing, and if you use psychedelics properly, it vastly improves neuroplasticity. So if you're looking to heal your brain or, increase your neurological output, things like that, they can be very, very powerful due to how they can shift frequency. So kind of how I would explain it, not in so much of a spiritual way. I'd explain it. What's happening is you're changing the way your frequency is interacting with the quantum field. Now, where this usually falls apart is because it's temporary. When you're injecting that frequency, think of everything as frequency. You're taking in a frequency that's altering your frequency and how you're taking in information. Kind of just how Zane said, alters your perception of reality. So this is temporary, and people after the medicine journey usually come out of the medicine journey and they're feeling pretty good. Things have shifted. For some people, these shifts are permanent. Because it all depends. It depends what medicine you're doing, who you're doing it with, what your intentions are, kind of where you're at on your journey. There's no kind of one size fits all to psychedelic treatment. That just doesn't exist. So it's kind of a very unique kind of thing, although are some similar or anecdotal kinds of results that show up. But if the real work comes not in the medicine journey, it comes in how you integrate that journey, how you integrate that neurological change afterwards. So if it becomes non-integrated, what happens is you had this short period of time, you did the medicine, you liked it, and you felt good, but then some time passes, and what's happened is you didn't do any of the work. Work has happened. And what happens is usually there's an atrophy kind of feeling that happens, and then the person needs more medicine. And so I personally worked with many people who've been on many ayahuasca journeys. One man, he's in his 70s, and he had been on 76 ayahuasca journeys before he met me. And I asked him, well, what did you think was supposed to happen? I don't know. I thought you just kept doing it. And so I worked with him just 2 or 3 sessions and helped him to integrate some of these things that were happening, taking that experience that you had. And he had vast experiences. The stories this man had was just outrageous and amazing. But as soon as he started to change the way he was doing things and start to integrate this stuff into his neurology, he began to shift in a very powerful way. And now he doesn't need the medicine anymore. So also when you're asking, where does the insight and wisdom come from? You're saying the higher self or the spirits of the plant. So it all depends on your mindset. I'm very much of a mystic mindset. I would say, what's the difference? That's just what your names of these things are. It's an energy. It's a living energy that's outside of your understanding of the physical being. So it all depends on how you want to look at it, how you feel or what feels comfortable. There certainly is I don't think there's one answer to that. And I always invite people to explore that, find out what makes the most sense or what feels the most comfortable for you. But that's kind of my take on it from that kind of point of view is, yeah, you could look at it as chemical or frequency. They both mean the same to me. You're creating some sort of shift and change that temporarily puts you in a space of heightened consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean it's always happy or good for you either. There's plenty of people that report, and I've had them, bad trips, but they're not bad at all. That's not what I really think they are. They're challenging, and those are the best ones. Those are the ones I learned the most from, the ones that were the most strenuous, the ones that were the most difficult. Because you know what it teaches you? It teaches you how to relax and accept, knowing all, because the worst thing is when you get in deep into a trip and you begin to feel the whole range of human emotion all at once. It's like you're feeling the collective energy all at once. You feel the deepest form of pain and anguish, and along with that, the highest forms of ecstatic joy and everything in between. And all you can kind of do is sit there or cry or smile. You don't really have any other choice because it's going to go one way or the other. And I remember that happening one time. I was sitting with Mary and she looked at me and I was just like, hey, what's going on? She's like, how you feel? I'm like, well, I know I'm smiling, but that's because I don't know what else to do. Is because I can feel all human emotions at once. But what that taught me is I have to move into acceptance. That's when my higher self came in and said, hey, this isn't going to last forever. You're not stuck this way. Relax. Like, okay. And as I allowed myself to relax, I overcame this fear. Now it doesn't exist anymore. I was able to get beyond this kind of border or barrier. Awesome question, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to add something to that. Yes. And that is, they can be a tool. They can be a tool for you to explore consciousness. But I really caution people over the idea that they bring you to a higher state of consciousness. I don't believe they do. I believe all they do is they give you the opportunity to shift your consciousness yourself. Because the substance itself and the experience that you have from it, I've seen people who have been extremely traumatized by it, and were not better off afterward at all or during it. And that wasn't because they shifted into a higher state of consciousness and couldn't handle it. It's because all that did was it takes a pen that we use to make order in the universe. The mental pen that we use to make order in the universe, it's like it takes that out and it lets all that start to slip around. Now, when all that starts to slip around and you don't have an anchor anymore for reality, you don't have a true anchor, who do you become? Do you step up into a higher vibration or do you step down into a lower vibration? And all it does is it creates a temporary yet extreme emergency state. And you get to see who you become when you are handed such a state, when you are handed such a state, because for some people, it's a completely anxiety-ridden experience. For others, it's a completely depressive experience, and for others, it's an extremely ecstatic experience. And some people can bounce back and forth between all of these things. And that's really I think that's really the beauty of it and the danger of it is, one, if we don't go into it thinking it's going to make us enlightened, because it won't. It will never do that for you. If you just go into it and you experience it and you realize that in the end, you are in control of your experience. You don't get to control the totality of it, but you get to control how you react to the stimuli that you're seeing in front of you. And most of it, especially if we haven't healed our shadows, is the projections of our shadows onto the reality. This is another reason why when they would do the healing services, they would do them at night, because they wanted you to be projecting your shadows out. They didn't want anything of this reality to draw you back and anchor you. They wanted you to be in a psychedelic soup, spilling out all around you, so that you could surf that, and not as a client. Once again, I'm speaking as someone who is being initiated, which is totally different. Being initiated by these plant medicines. And really, the plant medicine plays the least role in your initiations. It's just something that you do every once in a while to test your mettle, if you will. Not to get you to the place where you can do things. It's to test if you are effective at doing them inside of a stressful situation that is created by your senses going haywire.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Awesome. There was another question. Let me find it. Where was it? There was Mark up there. Possible topic. Spirit animals. What do you want to know about spirit animals? Rock Warrior? Rock Warrior, is there a particular question?
Well, I'll jump in there and just start saying things until he pops in. So in many traditions, there are spirit animals, animals that help you move through your own life, especially in things like core shamanism and some of the shamanic traditions, I would say mostly from Asia. There is a lot of this spirit animal work. It's not universal in shamanic traditions. It really isn't a universal thing, but they're used in different ways. Usually, the animal itself represents something beyond the animal. Like in our tradition, we have 4 traditional animals. 3 we call the Andean trilogy, which is the serpent or the anaconda, the jaguar, and the condor. And then a 4th one called the hummingbird. And each one of these relate to different aspects of ourselves and different aspects of reality. But they also relate to the brain centers, especially in our tradition, because our tradition was one of the first traditions of brain surgery. In the mountains of the Andes, people fell off the mountains a lot, hit their heads a lot, and would be really sick. And they actually learned how to use obsidian and brass blades to cut holes in the scalp and the skull and to relieve pressure in the brain. And because of this, they started really studying the brain of the human, and they noticed certain things. They noticed that we had the reptilian brain. Right around the occiput, we have a reptilian brain, which is like the cerebellum and the brainstem and all of that. And they were like, wow, we have the brain of a reptile, the anaconda. They saw that we have the mammalian midbrain, the mammalian brain, and they were like, wow, humans have the same brain the mammals have. Then they noticed that we had something that regular mammals didn't have, which was the lobes. We had these lobes and this prefrontal cortex, and especially those lobes. When we really noticed those, we kind of related that to the lobes of the avian bird, of the animals. And so we, in our tradition, we started to notice that a human is made up of the neurological technology of reptiles, mammals, and birds. And then we have something else, that neocortex, that prefrontal lobe, which is something so unique to humanity. And many of us call that the God brain. And we started to relate that to the most current animal in our tradition, which was the hummingbird. The hummingbird came really not that long ago, just about 600-700 years ago. It came to prominence within our tradition. And interestingly enough, also within the Mayan tradition, up north from South America, it also became a popular animal. So that's another way that these things run and work. And another way is in, say, soul retrievals and things like that. When the person's integrating that soul part, you can find the medicine. Your spirits will tell you the medicine that they need to integrate that. And maybe it's the jaguar, maybe it's the anaconda, maybe it's the beaver. I had a guy that it was the beaver, and that was such a powerful thing. You know,
Like Jerry Mathers? You weren't clear on
yeah,
that. Just beaver,
yeah. I mean, it was, and you know, and it doesn't matter what it is. We have to understand that we're taking it for granted. I did a healing not too long ago, and a swan appeared, and it was a very important message for that person in that healing. And you know, oftentimes it relates to qualities within ourselves that are not yet defined or developed, that we need to define and develop so that we can move forward in our lives. So an animal holds that for us, and then eventually we don't need that animal anymore. But especially in like traditions like core shamanism and some Siberian shamanisms and stuff, you know, the animals are the spirits that you are primarily working with. Because especially Harner's view of core shamanism was that the Western world had no spirits left and had no way of connecting to it. So he went around and he kind of cherry picked. That's what he did. He cherry picked from traditions. He said, I'm only going to keep what's similar about these traditions and throw away everything else. The scientific model. That gets us into a lot of trouble, though. Really, that gets us into a lot of trouble because there's a lot of information that slips through the cracks and gets lost forever. That was very important because it's not just about relating things away. But he said, let's just take that. And you know what? Let's use the animal kingdom, the power animals, as a way of entering into this work, you know, as the teachers that are going to show us, because we don't have a culturally prescribed cosmovision of spirits. We don't have a hierarchy of spirits that we work with, but especially in Asia, Siberia, and in core shamanism, it's a very big thing. You know, it's very big. But the real work there is developing a relationship with them that is so strong that you're okay with letting them take control of your body and yourself. That you trust them enough that you can let your intellect go and your watch over everything go, so that you can allow those animals to come into you so that they can perform the healings, they can perform the magic, and they can perform the ceremonies. But you can only do that if you can step into a very deep state of trance and let go of needing to control it, let go of wanting to control it, and really lose yourself into it. And it's called spirit possession, you know. And I know that scares people, and that's all right. It should scare people.
It should scare you. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't have a good relationship with the spirits and you haven't done your work, which a lot of times takes years to develop to get to that point, you know, you really shouldn't be doing that, you know, because you really have to know who you're working with and understand what you're letting into your field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when he's asking about spirit animals, something that comes to me right away is it kind of like what you said. I see them also as like parts of ourself we don't know yet. Like it's a part of what we still see it as kind of something separate, but I have the feeling that everything is me or us is kind of what it is. So I understand these spirit guides as they show up, and I love working with animals. It's something I've been doing my whole life. I just kind of was semi unaware of it. I thought, it's just my imagination or whatever, but it wasn't. It was just my connection to living energy in nature. But I think you touched on everything quite beautifully there with all that stuff, talking about kind of how they're used in the tradition of, and how they align. That's the beautiful part to me. That's something I love so much about this tradition. So ancient, but has so much beautiful human technology within it. It blows my, I'll never forget when it first started to come into my life and I started to connect to it and you started to teach me about it. Wow. I was just blown away. Like, what technology is this? This is amazing, amazing stuff. And this is the kind of things that like go hand in hand and start to be a great bridge for science, between mysticism and science, because like, oh, wow, look at how all of these things kind of align. Even though most people would probably think, I know I didn't understand too much about the Inca because it's not something we studied much in school or anything like that. I didn't really understand just how advanced of a people they were.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to understand because our culture's biased. Really, that's really what it comes down to. Is and I think we said this a few weeks ago when we were talking about the Inca. One of the beautiful things about that tradition, especially, is that it is a Stone Age tradition. I'm not saying it's not been altered through since then or anything like that, but I'm saying that for the majority of the people who practice it, they still live a very traditional lifestyle, and up to about 10, 15 years ago lived a very, very traditional lifestyle where it wasn't about money that they had to go buy things. It was all about farming and community, and that was the basis of everything.
Oh, I was wondering if that was going to happen today. That's okay. Zane will be back. Look, he's stuck. Zane, you're stuck. I'm just going to take him off the screen. He'll come back in a minute. So I think the last thing we were talking about, I'm kind of discombobulated now. We're talking about spirit animals. I love to connect with spirit animals. I like to help people connect with the spirit animals. And it's a lot like Zane said, and I agree with that. It's about letting that animal, and you don't always have to let it be like a spiritual possession. That's a very deep level of shamanism. You can also make it kind of more surface where you're calling the energy to you and you're emulating that animal. Like for, say, like the condor. The condor gives you the ability to see your life from a higher point of view, from a higher form of consciousness, from the bird's eye view. I think the next thing when Zane comes back, though, because I don't know if he's going to remember where he was, but what I wanted to talk about is like the interpretation of the spiritual and metaphysical effects of the lunar eclipse that is coming. All right. So there's been lots of events currently. There is a full moon that just came through, the summer equinox, the beginning of summer, the spring equinox, the beginning of spring. And that brings on a whole lot of energy. And the next thing we're heading into is this big kind of celestial body event, that's rare and doesn't really happen. But for me, I understand everything's energy. So what this is two bodies coming into some form of alignment, which creates an alignment within us. Where are you, Zane? Come on back. I don't want to get too far ahead. Yeah, I wanted to speak on the eclipse because we didn't really have we didn't want to come in with like a agenda. We wanted to be able to make it interactive with you all. But that's something I want to talk about I want to talk about the interpretation of this, the spiritual and metaphysical effects of the lunar eclipse. Here's Zane. Hi, Zane.
Hey.
It was awesome. You're stuck again. It was great. It took a long time that time. That was really good.
It did. I noticed. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember what you were talking about or where you were at.
But I do not.
Okay, that's fine. I was going to kind of just scoot along. And what I started to talk about is that I kind of want to talk about the interpretation of the spiritual metaphysical effects of the lunar eclipse. I think that's it. So I have some stuff right here. I'll just kind of run through this really quick. I kind of have something I printed out here. And what it says is the interpretation of the spiritual and metaphysical effects of a lunar eclipse can vary significantly across different cultures and belief systems. Generally, lunar eclipses are seen as powerful moments that can bring out transformation, release, and profound shifts in consciousness. Here are a few perspectives of how they even might be interpreted spiritually and metaphysically. And the first is release and closure. Many believe that a lunar eclipse is an ideal time for letting go of what no longer serves us, facilitating closure and emotional release. It's seen as a period when the universe opens a pathway for individuals to release old energies, habits, and past traumas. The next point that comes up is transformation and renewal. The intense energy of the lunar eclipse is thought to catalyze deep personal transformation. This can manifest as significant shifts in one's life path, perspectives, and inner being, paving the way for new beginnings and new fresh starts. The next point is heightened intuition and psychic insights. The metaphysical energies of the lunar eclipse are said to enhance intuition and psychic abilities. It's a time when individuals might find themselves more open to receiving messages from the universe, their subconscious minds, or spirit guides. Next is emotional intensity. Eclipses can stir deep emotions, bringing to the surface the feelings that have been suppressed or ignored. This can lead to intense experiences, but also opportunities for profound emotional healing and understanding. Global and collective impact. On a larger scale, the effects of lunar eclipse can be interpreted as influencing collective consciousness and global events. Some believe that these cosmic events highlight areas that require societal change and transformation. Spiritual practices. Many spiritual traditions recommend special practices during eclipses, such as meditation, prayer, or rituals intended to harness the energy of the eclipse for personal and collective benefit. And last is astrological significance. In astrology, the impact of lunar eclipse is often interpreted through the lens of the specific signs and houses it activates in an individual's natal chart, offering insights into the area of life most affected and the themes of the transformations taking place. So that was a whole bunch of information to kind of rattle around. Zane, tell us something.
Well, eclipses were historically times of great terror.
Yes.
That was really what they were, because they, especially a lot of the ancient cultures, some of them understood it as a cycle, and they mapped it and they knew that it was coming, but they still usually saw it as a forbearing of some type of dread. And a lot of their rituals and practices would be to bring the light back, because it's a time when the light, for some reason, is snubbed out. Whether it's a natural occurrence that we can say is going to happen every 3 years on this date, that's wonderful. But why is that? And symbolically, they would still see it as the dying of the light. And they would do rituals and stuff to bring the light back. And then, of course, the eclipse would end and the light would return, and they'd feel much better. Lunar eclipses especially, we often view them in the same way we view the new moon. So we view them as a uber new moon or a super new moon. And in that way, they have a amplified effect of what a new moon is, but only for the period of time that the eclipse is actually happening. During that period of time, as soon as that's over, it's the energy of the moon, whatever phase it's in at that moment. We just had one Sunday night, early Monday morning, which was interesting because it was a full moon and a full lunar eclipse. So we went from two extremes within just a pattern of like 30, 40 minutes. We went from the extreme of a new moon into the extreme of a full moon. And that was a very interesting flow of energy there. And it's kind of like a bookend. It's one bookend, and the other one is the solar eclipse that is going to happen here, I think it's the 8th. Mm-hmm. And that's a very powerful movement. And all of that is kind of the end of a big cosmic cycle that has been going on for many, many years here. In 1987, we had the harmonic convergence. In 2012, we had the Venus transit. We had the Venus transit. We had the December 21st, 2012. And then, of course, that whole period of if we go by the Mayan thing, that was a period of time that lasted from 2012 to 2021. And that was an interesting movement of energy. And between that time period, we had a total of 3 Venus transits, and we've had partial eclipses. Now we're going in, especially certain areas, and Cleveland, Akron, Ohio, that whole area is going to get the full solar eclipse. And I see it as the unfolding, the beginning and ending of something new, a new age that's beginning and ending. And it's really telling us as individuals, what are you going to stand up for? What are you going to put your energy behind? What do you want to drive forward in reality? What do you want to help release in reality? We can make this a cosmic thing because it is. We have entered a new age. We've been entering new ages, it seems like every 5-10 years lately. But we've entered this whole new age, and it's really up to us. We've got to decide. And that means we've got to be picky. We've got to talk about things. We've got to say what's working and what's not working in reality. Because you can't fix something if you don't admit it's broken. You have to admit something's not working fundamentally well to decide or to come up with a new way to operate. And that's our responsibility at this time, is to really be these forebearers, because that's what it is. We're a forebearer of a great golden age. And that great golden age probably won't come in my lifetime. It probably might not come in the lifetime of the youngest person watching this. And that doesn't matter. The thing is, Are we willing to put the work into transforming the world so that someone 100 or 200 years from now can actually reap the benefits of it? Are we willing to start to sacrifice things in our own life to make 7 generations from now a better world? You know, because that's what it takes. And that's where we're at right now. We've got to decide what we're willing to let go of, what we want to hold on to, and, you know, what do we want this new age to be? Because it is up to us. It is up to us collectively as to where we're going. And that's a great honor, a great responsibility, and also a great burden that is in our hands. And this is the type of situation that doesn't happen in every life cycle. In fact, it's been at least 500 years since the last minor one of these has happened. But we're not working on a minor level. Look at what's happened. We've had a pandemic. We're going into an age of artificial intelligence. We are going into an age of transhumanism. We're really at a precipice where we have to decide, standing in the crossroads, what do we want? You know, where are we going to go from here? And how much of my energy can I responsibly lend toward it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot around all that because there's so many events happening at once, just like you mentioned. Like, so, you know, we talk about COVID. For me, that was an injection of consciousness. That's how I understand it. It changed the consciousness of humans. So, including myself and many others, it altered something. We may see that as an alteration of our perceived reality, but that's because there's a different frequency of reality that's happening. So that's my understanding of what that is. And so I've been watching, and now, you know, I have a pretty good connection to a wide swath of people all over the world. And generally, there's a large rising of kind of anxiety. Kind of what's happening is the suppressed shit is starting to rise. And it's like, where is this coming from? It didn't used to be that way, this and that, and understanding, hey, you've never been here before. You're in a whole new place. Don't try to go backwards. We want to go forwards. And along with, you know, for me, when I feel and I sense the eclipse, what I sense is an alignment of something, almost like a key going down the tumbler. There's like this key. And then you look at like the path of the eclipse and how it looks. That's a massive line of light and information and energy that spreads out in all directions. So that's what I'm seeing is the same thing that you're saying. There's a big shift about to occur, right? Which can include many, many things, particularly because on top of all of this, the sun is vastly more active than it was 1 year ago. I was just watching something or showing the solar surface, and now looking at it now, it's so busy, and so there's all these coronal ejections, there's all of these solar waves coming off, and that's what some people are saying is we might be able to see some solar events coming out around the moon. And what these have the ability to do is create EMPs on the planet, electromagnetic pulses that can knock. We live in a primarily magnetically driven reality for the deepest part. So not only can it knock out all those things, it's understanding that we are an electromagnetic field as well. So will that alter our field? My answer is yes. That's what my awareness is. It's going to create a deep alteration in not just individual energy fields, all of our energy fields, all one thing. And what I expect and what I feel is just like how COVID happened, I think we're going to see I think it's going to double itself, just like all other forms of intelligence. How big that shift was from COVID way back in 2020, now we're, like you said, the events are happening closer together. Sure, time's moving faster. Everything's moving quicker. I believe that this next event is going to create a spike in intelligence that surpasses that one and all the other little things that happen to there. Like it's going to double that in some sort of way and open everything up into a whole new kind of way. So there's lots of people that are a little afraid. They're out there like, hey, stock up on water and stuff like that. I personally don't think that's a bad idea because, you know, I don't think you should be afraid and go out and buy all the toilet paper or anything. But there is always a chance, even if it's not that, there's always a chance it's good to have some extra water at home with you, especially in the how fast the world is moving and changing. It wouldn't behoove you to have 20, 30 gallons of extra water just so you can survive for a couple weeks if that needs to happen, because these are experts saying this. Like they're saying, listen, We know about how it's not if, it's when. Sooner or later, they're going to have a coronal mass ejection that shuts down all of our electrical equipment. We don't know for how long that's going to be. And if you go back, think about how like the brownout of what was that, 2002 or 3 or something like that. There was a brownout where we were out of power in parts of the United States. And it was crazy. It was totally out of control, the way things were happening. I remember the corner store, people were trying to loot things, all kinds of stuff in the neighborhood I lived. There was house fires because of candles. It was starting to become pretty out of hand. So I think that wherever we're headed is a very, very interesting time. I don't live in any fear, so it's not fearful for me. I'm just excited. I don't care what happens. I don't care if a machine comes out of the sky, swallows me up and chews me up. I don't care. I'm cool with that because that's the design. I'm all right with that. That's a cool way to ride out. So I'm just here for like, and that's how I've trained my mind is I already was nearly dead. Okay. I don't worry about death anymore because I've already been there. Death has happened already for me. And so now I'm just too busy living. I'm too happy to live to worry about dying. I want to look at what's possible. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is going to bring into us is this alignment of energy. I think it's going to be something that's never been seen before in any sort of modern time. And I think what it's going to do is going to switch a lot of minds. It's going to take a lot of people that are on the fence, people that are skeptics about what this reality is or can be. And I think it's going to really start to open up a different viewpoint and way of being.
Yeah, I mean, that's really where we are at this point in history. But I always want to say it's a cooperative effort and we each have to choose what we choose. And can't do it out. We can't force people to do it. We can't do anything else. We just have to let everyone make their choice as to what they feel is the right way to handle all of this. And then the collective of that will decide the future of the collective. That's just that's the field of free will. That's how free will works. It's not necessarily democratic in nature, but it is whatever gets the most energy behind it is what will happen and what will move forward. But that doesn't give us any guarantees, of course, of anything whatsoever. We know at this time we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to step into a new golden age. But that opportunity is a responsibility, meaning we have the responsibility to put in the personal work, not just on ourselves, but on our society and culture, to put in the personal work, to say what's broken is broken, to say, hey, this needs fixed, to take personal responsibility for things, to make the world a better place, and to quit relying on governments and other things to do it for us. They're doing the best they can already. They can't do better because that is us giving our power away. They've done all they can do with that. It's not their jobs to fix all these problems. That's our jobs to put in and to start creating the systems and to start creating the new ideas that will create a better world, so that we can leave a better world for those who come after us. And that's really the work right now is what are we willing to step up to do? What are we willing to take responsibility for? You can't take responsibility for all of humanity, but you can take responsibility in your sphere of influence. And what actions are you going to do? What in your gifts can you do? What do you do best, and what can you do then to move all of humanity forward by you giving what you do best? Not by you taking on a bunch of responsibilities that you are helplessly unable to do and incapable to facilitate, but inside of your own wheelhouse, what can you do? What will you do? That's really the question. What will you do?
Yeah, great question too. And I recommend to sit there with that, meditate with that, and leave it open. A nice open-ended question. Who do I want to be? What do I want to happen? What's important to me? What do I value? These are questions I don't think a lot of people spend much time really focusing on because of the way this society kind of moves. We don't spend a lot of time wondering, what do I really need? Like the ego will tell you what it wants, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's what it needs. And so we're being brought to a point now where you have a choice now to be the change instead of complain about what's wrong with everything and put blame, because that's the biggest thing that happens. That's what everyone does. They're blaming something. They're blaming presidents and leaders, people that we elected. The people that we're the people, we're part of what caused this to happen. So instead of pointing fingers, why don't we start asking, well, how do we make the change? And just like how you said, finding out, what am I good at? And can I make that bigger? Can I make that better? And yeah, I agree totally with that, because there's lots of people, it becomes this emotionally driven, fear-based thing. And what happens is they're actually giving power to what they don't want to happen. They don't understand that's what's happening. So it's actually allowing yourself to find what you love, put love into the world. What can you do? Like, just like I'll talk to people, I'll be like, well, why did this or that happen? I really wanted to help this person. Okay, I can understand that. But what I want you to understand is, what frequency are you vibrating at when you want to help this person? Is it through fear, or is it through loving compassion? Which one is it? So for a lot of people, it's disturbing when they find out some of the reactions they're having are totally fear-based, putting fear-based energy out into the world and thinking that it's going to reverberate or reciprocate, a different form of energy, but it's just bouncing itself right back over and over and over.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, I couldn't have said it better myself. It really is, what are we feeding the universe, and what?
No, he's whistling. Look. I don't know why, but like the Andy Griffith show just started. I love you, Zane. Cool. Yeah, so I'll kind of just keep going a little bit in there. It's like, yeah, we have a big responsibility to ourselves, to show up for ourselves and be the change in the world. And I know most of the people that watch these things and are here with us, you're people that are already have great awareness, and you're aware that things are going to change and it needs to change. But this is where it becomes really important for you to become more aware and go within yourself and really find out what's important to you and what can you offer, what can you do within your current range that can make the greatest significant contribution to humanity. Okay, that's something I started to ask myself about 5 years ago, and that's what's led me here. What's the greatest thing I can do? As I began to heal and my body began to heal from all of its disease, and I could see how powerful that was and capable, that's what started to drive me to help others. I started to help other people how to begin to train their mind, in psychology to be successful, to help them to be able to overcome adversity and problems. And the side effect to that is there begins a healing effect. The healing effect begins after that. And Zane's here.
Back.
You missed it. I have to watch the replay. You got stuck in it. Looked like you were whistling, so I started whistling and stuff. Like, there's Zane, he's whistling.
Yeah, whistling.
Andy Griffith show started.
But I saw. I was saying, Rock Warrior had a question about the difference between totem animals and spirit animals.
I have no idea, so that's on you, Zane. I don't know enough about North Native American cultures to answer that.
Well, a totem animal is more or less like a mascot. And understand that this is an analogy. It's a metaphor. It's not a perfect one either. But it's more like a mascot for a people, a mascot for a family. Like you might be the Crow clan. So you have the crow as a totem. And in that way, it represents certain things about your family or your culture. It represents certain things. It can even be a tradition. You can be, part of maybe a dragon tradition, like in martial arts or something. That's a totem animal. Where a spirit animal is the spirit, is some type of spiritual entity that has manifested itself in an animal form. Like our apus in our tradition, they often come in animal forms. We call it the estrella, or the star form of the mountain. And it might come as a puma to you, or it might come as a hummingbird to you, but it's actually a mountain. In the same way, a spirit animal is a conglomeration of energy that is expressing itself in an animal form because that animal has the qualities that energy current holds. So it expresses itself in that animal form. It's similar to a totem animal, but a totem animal is just that. It's totem. Look up the word totem. That will tell you it all. It's a representation, and usually more or less a representation of a clan or of a tribe or of one branch of a tribe. And it's to say that it characterizes them to a large degree. Maybe they're the Puma clan, and the Puma's their totem. So they're kind of like a Puma in many ways. And that's kind of how they present themselves traditionally, or you might have the white crane, like white crane martial arts, white crane kung fu. They move like a crane in it. Same thing, that's a totem. Spirit animal is something more intelligent, though the totem can come like a spirit animal because it's like a representation of your ancestry in a way. So it can come to you to speak of your ancestral line, to speak of your clan's line, and it would come as a gregora, as this morphic field to illuminate you about things that were more clan-based, more family-based, more cultural-based. Where a spirit animal, it's more individual. It's something that is serving as a guide for you in your individual life. You may be someone who has a totem, say you're the totem of the white crane or something, and you could be even a powerful medicine person and never have had an experience with the spiritual energy of the totem of the white crane. You could have that. But you can have spirit animals that come to you and work with you all the time to help you discover messages. Another thing is these spirit animals, they're often connected to a certain domain or dimension of living energy. So there's certain spirit animals of yours that are in the domain of the lower world. So they help you to explore the lower world. They already know the territory, and they can take you and show you the sites, take you to where you need to go, and so you can get the information you need to get. And that's a very individual relationship. And like I was saying, you can have, to some degree, an individual relationship with a totem, but more often than not, it's only going to communicate with you when it's cultural, when it's something bigger than yourself, when it has to deal with your entire family. Like it might come to you and show you, you got to move, your whole family, your whole clan needs to move 25 miles south, and it might come to you, and most likely it's not just going to come to you, it's going to come to everyone who's turned on inside of your family, inside of your clan, and show itself to all of them. And then you're all going to come together and go, whoa, I had this. Yeah, okay, we got to go,
Rock Warrior says, do you have a spirit animal and what is it? Yeah, I have more than one. I have a couple that I work with more than others. And as I continue on my journey, I pick up more of them as I go. So I don't know. I can't really answer that. I could tell you like what one of my primary animals is that I work with, but it's something sort of mystical. I tend to work with something that looks like a rainbow colored dragon or a rainbow serpent. I work with this energy quite a lot. I work with lots of avian energies, lots of bird energies I like to work with. I love to work with serpent energies. There really isn't anything I don't want to work with. I'm kind of open to everything. But I guess that's kind of be the extent for me.
Yeah. I'm going to say, yeah, I have some spirit animals. I'm going to say, no, I won't tell you what they are because it's not polite to ask that. And I'm not upset at you or anything because you never know until you do ask so that you can get the information. But within traditional societies, you don't ask someone who their spirits are. You don't ask someone what their spirit animal is because it's something so personal. It's not supposed to be shared. It's not supposed to be shared, not because it ruins anything, but because that's a level of respect that we develop. We develop a level of respect where where something has to happen. Like if someone came to me and said, oh, I see XYZ around you. And if they guessed something and they really tapped on it, then I might feel compelled to tell them, oh, that's one of my animals. And I would feel compelled to tell them that because that animal obviously showed itself to them. So there's something there for me to learn. There's something there. But that's why we would like to keep these things. We like to keep them very private and very to ourselves, because that is the work, is internal work. And if we put it out there, we run into all kinds of different things that pop up. People telling us what that means, what, all these other things, where that's for you to unravel by yourself. It's for you. That's your relationship with the spirit animal or the spirit guide or the spirits that come to you, is for you to develop a relationship with them. And many of them want that to be, in a sense, a secret, because it is something just between you and them. And if you let that out to the wider world, you can get a whole lot of feedback. And that feedback isn't always positive energy, because other people's energy does have an effect on you. People can be jealous of your power animal. People can be envious of the animal or the spirit you work with. People can decide, I want to steal that animal or that spirit away from that person. And that can happen. Those things do happen. So in traditional cultures, especially, we never ask personal questions about the spirit, about someone's spirits.
Oh, no, he's stuck. You could ask me about my spirits. I don't have any reservations. I do understand what Zane's saying, and I agree with that. But at the same time, I don't really live too far inside of deep forms of secrecy. Maybe I should. Maybe I should change that. We'll wait for Zane to come back, but what we'll do is we'll look at this. And Zelika says, does each spirit animal have a different lesson for us? So I guess it depends how you look at it. Like, it's not that they all have lessons per se for you. It's understanding that these animals are parts of you that you do not know. So lesson, I get what you're saying, but I would kind of steer away from that word, because, words are energy. So lesson, it's not like it's always a lesson that happens with the animal. Sometimes what happens is an empowerment happens with the animal. So does each animal have a different form of empowerment? Yes, for sure, because they're all different vibrational frequencies. And again, you have to remember, all these things at the deepest level are you. There's no separation at all. And I'm not worried about anybody trying to steal my animals or be rude or send a heavy energy towards me. It happens all the time. I'll take all of it. Hi, Zane.
Hello.
You didn't have any awesome poses that time, so. And Zelika was asking, does each spirit animal have different lessons? And kind of what I was coming through me was like, well, it's not necessarily everything's a lesson. Think of it more as like a form of empowerment or energetic connection of some sort. Yes, each different form of spirit, however it shows up, is a different frequency. It's a different frequency of consciousness in which you can access or open up into. And for me, how my awareness goes about is, again, I said this earlier, your spirit animals are also pieces of you that you just don't know yet. They're fragments of you that you're beginning to form a relationship with and a unified kind of consciousness with.
Yeah, I totally am right on board with what you said. The only other thing I would say is it's a relationship, and it will only develop if you put time and effort into it. Mm-hmm. And you will only know. It's just like I meet Anthony, right? We become friends. I don't know what Anthony and I's friendship is going to develop into. I don't know how he's going to help me in my life. I don't know how I'm going to help him in his life. But we just became friends. And through the natural flow of that friendship and through nurturing it enough and paying enough attention to it, all kinds of unexpected things will come up and happen that will alter both people in that relationship. And that's what it's all about, really. We don't always know. And sometimes an animal will come to us and it will say, this is what I'm going to teach you. It doesn't mean that's all it's going to teach you, but it's saying that this is what I have decided and I have taken my responsibility to share with you and to give to you. But if we don't foster that relationship, that can't happen. if we don't make time to go in, especially if it's a spirit animal, if we don't make time to go into the journey world, to go into our journey work and to work with that spirit animal and to foster that relationship, it could decide, you know what, I signed on to do this for them, but they're not really serious about it. So I'm out of here. And you all need to do that in your relationships too. You know, is the relationship alive or is it dying? And if it's dying, do you need to put the energy into keeping it alive, or is it something that needs to die and go and pass on? Because everything has an ebb and flow, and we're all in each other's lives for very particular reasons, but I don't call them lessons, because a lesson makes it sound like if you don't learn it, it's going to have to come back around and try it again. And I don't really see it like that. I see it more like there are opportunities within every relationship, and we are learning how to tap into those opportunities and how to create a healthy relationship within those opportunities. You know, how not to use each other, and to know how to create a reciprocal relationship. And that's really the goal of it all, whether it's with a spirit or with another human. And your spiritual energetic quality is in relation to how well you can keep harmonious interpersonal relationships with others of your own species. That is the spiritual work, is the ability to have interpersonal relationships. Doesn't mean you have to have great relationships with everyone. Doesn't mean you have to have millions of relationships, but the ones that you do have, can you keep a healthy energy going? Can you hold healthy boundaries? Can you receive from your friend? Can you give to your friend? Can you do that effortlessly, receive and give from them and not worry about it, with no conditions attached? With no conditions attached at all. You know, can I go and say, hey, my friend down here is having trouble with this car. I'm going to go down there and help him. And then maybe 5 years later, I'm having trouble with my car, and I call that friend and ask him to come and help me. Now, did I do that help to him just to get him to help me later? You know, now if he doesn't help me, that's okay. And I can decide, hey, what is this imbalance? But that's all for me to decide and for me to make actions of correcting in my own life. It's not for them. They're doing what they have chosen to do. Now I get to do what I choose to do. And, you know, that's really where it all comes down to. It's all relationships, whether it's spirit or another human or the environment. It's all your relationship, or even the most primal one, your relationship with your own body.
And that comes right. It circles around into me at loving acceptance and gratitude. Those kinds of things is how you can foster beautiful relationships. Understanding that, like how you're saying, like, I don't have ideas anymore. I used to think like these people that I've been in my lifetime, they were so difficult and they were so bad and they were assholes and all these things going on. But now the way it works for me is like, wow, I sure am grateful that this person taught me how to create a boundary. I sure am grateful that this person taught me about my self-worth. I still sure am grateful that this person taught me this or taught me that. I can find gratitude for the people that were once like enemies in a way to me. I can see that they're here it's all one thing trying to work on itself. The thing that we always do is we run away from the opportunity. We think something's wrong all the time. Something happens. Your friend does something that outside of your expectation, you're reacting because it has to do with how you feel about yourself. Do you have to react? No, because he didn't do anything to you. Just like you're saying about the car. You help your buddy with the car. Some time passes. Maybe he doesn't come help you with the car. Well, you have a choice. You're going to be pissed at him. You're going to be mad at him. Why would you be mad at him? Because of your expectations. Why I helped him? Why you help me? That's what that comes down to. It comes down to you is where that comes down to. Coming down into, well, what is it about me? That's something I've really learned now. I love when I have interactions with people that feel unsavory or heavy. I don't really look at it that way. I'm like, what am I going to learn today? I don't try to externalize like it's their fault that it's like this. I look at them. It might be that way at first, the first reaction when the first hit happens. But after you kind of settle into that, okay, what are they teaching me about myself? What are they showing me? What can I change? What can I change? Because everybody wants to change the world. Everybody wants to change the world, but nobody wants to change themselves. And that's how you change the world, because the world in which you perceive is happening where? Right here. That's where it's happening. So if I change this, and I know this because this is what I've done, I change this, the whole world changes. It's a whole different world from the one that I was born into and lived my whole life up until a certain point, and it started to shift and change. And every day I feel a little more grateful, a little more alive, a little less fearful of anything, a little more accepting, loving, and full of gratitude just to be alive, just to be part of this awesome experience, this thing that we get to pilot in this space, this meat suit that we get to kind of, which I don't really like that term because it's more than that. It's this living energy in which we get to command. And we get to see it as trillions of cells all harmoniously working together to create this being. What happens as we become harmonious cells within the larger being? What will we form? What will happen? Those are the things I like to ask my mind, feel myself, open it up. What's possible? What's capable? The more harmonious we become, the better. Are you stuck again? My name's Zane, and I'm Zane's in meditation right now. Don Zano. Freeze. Freeze tag. Zane's it. All right. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Oh, there's a couple right here. Well, let's look at Rock Warrior. Rock Warrior says, wow, never understood the intensity of spirit connections between human and animals. I like the idea of allowing their spirit to really guide us. Totally, because there's no separation. Everything is you. The entire reality, everything you're perceiving as separate from you, that's illusory. All is one living energy, and you're here to absorb and understand all of those things. The more you become one, I am one with all things, the more you're connected to them. Do you have any thoughts on spiders? Spiders as spirit animals. That was fun. Yeah, the way you were meditating. So I was like,
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could have saw it. I'll have to go back to the replay.
Maybe I'll have Mary throw up an edit. We should make the freeze frames. That's what we should do. And I'll try to make it funny every time. And then what we'll do is we'll get a freeze frame video going.
Awesome. Yeah.
Chuck is asking about spiders as spirit animals. I have several of them that I work with, and I love them dearly. I think they're fantastic energies. But
yeah,
there I am talking about my spirit guides again.
Well, if you want to talk,
I was joking when you're on there. I was like, I don't know if I am completely on board with Zane saying, because I'm free to share my things. But I was like, but I do think he's right, and maybe I'll change that. That's what I said.
You are always free to share them, but it always comes down to why are we sharing them, and does it create a better understanding for others? But with Tom's question there, I want to say, and I say this when it comes to like animals popping up in your day-to-day life or dreams that you have and stuff, it's fine to look up interpretations of it, but it's a symbolic language that is uniquely between you and it. And the fact that it's showing itself as a spider, really fill into what a spider means for you. Yeah. And that's more important than any cultural or any other interpretation of it. You can look at those other interpretations and get an idea and go, oh, well, it could mean that. It could mean that. This is what it feels like to me out of these things that I'm reading about. It feels more like this than like that. But really, in the end, what emotions do you feel? What feelings do you feel? What thoughts come up? That's what they really mean. And that's why we really, in this current modern era, a lot of us spiritual leaders and stuff are really asking everyone to stand up for themselves and understand these things on their own, to start to interpret these qualities for themselves, because then they're empowered. Where if I do it for you, then next time you're going to come to me again. And eventually you're just going to, and I'm not talking about you, Tom, in particular, but eventually you're going to want someone else to interpret everything for you, where you actually have the ability and the power to interpret these things for yourself.
I would say in alignment with what Zane's saying is you could spend some time. I see now you've put down there, I'm scared of it. So going into those feelings, like, because fear is multifaceted. It's not just this one sensation, because that's just a word. That's kind of a concept is fear. What does it feel like? Going in and spending time with what do you feel about what this, because as Zane was saying, and that's the same way I understand it, it's not what you're seeing. And it's okay to look, like he's saying, I do the same thing sometimes. I'll look online, but I just take it with a grain of salt. Maybe I'm looking. I believe that if I'm looking, it's because I meant to. So that way I can get some sort of suggestion. It doesn't mean that I follow that suggestion. Some of the things I read are also creating feeling within inside of me, an emotional feeling, not this intellectual idea of trying to piece everything together, but feeling the information come into me. And as I feel the information come into me, this can create a whole new form of seeing, a whole new kind of awareness. So it's taking, and that's the cool part about being what we are, is we can take energy, a vision. You can take your ability to envision the greatest possible outcome for yourself. That's a concept taken into this part of you. You can take that down. You can bring this here, transform it into another form of energy where you begin to embody it. You begin to feel it. And then you can take it from that form of energy and begin to expand it and become a radiator of it, beginning to fill up the space around you with that and begin to really connect to the space around you in a big way. So I would say that, Tom, like if you're scared of it, like, okay, well, find out. Don't run from it. Find out. It's, find out what it's trying to say to you. Good exercise, by the way.
Yeah, it's very beautiful to find these things out for yourself. You can come to people like Anthony and I to help you, But the best way that we help you is by holding a container that allows you to feel safe enough to explore it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Mary's here. Mary says, what is your opinion on a spirit guide being an animal that is currently in living form? I think it's totally okay. I don't know.
Well, in many, especially European traditions, there was something called a familiar. And a familiar might be something that comes over and over again in your life. Like in my family, we had a lot of cats, and cat energy was very important to me up until just a few years ago. It's still important to me, but I had always had a cat, So a cat was my familiar. And even though each cat is a different entity in and of itself, it is a familiar to me. And I do believe that certain ones of them, certain pets of mine, or I should call them friends and family, because that's more how I see it. They're my friends and family. Certain ones of them have been very wise and have helped me grow a whole lot in my own life, receiving information and stuff from them. So I believe absolutely that you can have a spirit guide that is manifested in the form of an animal and manifested as a pet that you are caring for. And that is part of the agreement, is that you're caring for them, they're caring for you, and you're bringing unique gifts into each other's lives.
Mary says, my familiar is definitely a cat my entire life. Yeah, I call her Mary Critters because Mary's always had a beautiful connection to nature and animals, even when she was a little girl. I'm going to share a cool story, some of the cool experience that happened. She grew up about 35 to 40 minutes east of here in Willoughby, Ohio. So one day we were out, and what we were doing is we were doing shaman work. We're actually going to visit her Pacarina. We were going to visit this river in which she grew up by, this body of water. So we were going there, and then so we ended up driving past this old house that she grew up in, and it was like for sale. So it was like empty. So like I was like, back up. Spirit just jumped out, was like, go there right now. And I was like, hey, you got to stop, go back. So we went back. And we just were like looking through the windows, and she just started, you could feel all of her emotion begin to rise, and it started to rise in me. And it was so beautiful. And then we got to the side of the house, and on the side of the house is like one of those like basement window troughs. It's like a trough. So it like borders out the dirt around the window. And then so I said to her, I was like, you used to keep animals in here, didn't you? Yeah, I had a duck and I had this and that, and I kept them down in there. And then as I stood there and started to connect with the energy of the space, poof, it shot me into a vision where I'm this little, I don't know what I am. I'm a little being, and I look up, and all I can see is the edge of that, like that tumbler that I'm inside. And I'm looking up, and I can see Mary's little face, a little girl face looking down at me and smiling. big giant smile, and she's in there taking care of us. And I was just blown away, and I just started crying because I got to actually experience. I was able to pick up the energy of that little window well and pick it up, and was able to absorb it and able to experience it just like I was one of those little animals being loved by this kind little being. It was, I'm about to cry right now. It was so cool. It was so amazing. So that's why I call her Mary Critters, because she's still, and now it's plants. Now the house is really, because we have 2 cats, a dog, a gecko, a leopard gecko that she rescued and now is very healthy, a fish that we got from a carnival. My daughter wanted a carnival. You know, those don't usually live long. I think you're stuck. Yeah, look at, he's stuck. That's his thinker face. I think he's reading a comment. I think that's where it's at. Yeah, but that's my story of Mary Critters. I love Mary Critters. You're the bestest. Here, Mary says, I used to keep all my critters that would come, I would bring home from the river and woods in that window. Well, because my mom didn't want them in the house. That was a super cool kind of experience for me. I really, really love that. We're gonna knock that out of there. Oh, wait, hold on, remove. There we go. Okay. Can you have more than one spirit animal? Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's no limitations. The only limit that exists for anyone is the one you agree to. So, yeah, like I was saying, I more and more, as I continue on my journey, I pick up more guides. Or the other thing is understanding that, like, you're evolving, so can your guides. My guides, none of them are the same as how I started my relationship with them, because my relationship with them is also a mirror of me. So as I begin to change, so does my guidance. A big mistake a lot of people make, and I work with often, are people that have been on a spiritual path for a long time, and they're not allowing evolution of their guidance. And so what that means is you're not allowing evolution of you. Okay, so it's allowing being in the space, and that requires practice. That requires a beautiful practice. And another way, what I see is as I continue on my journey and become more sensitive, I deepen my connection with my spiritual guidance around me, and that allows them to change or shift kind of how they present themselves to me. Don Zeno.
All right.
You were reading a comment, I think. Your head was a little turned, and you were like in the thinker pose. Yeah. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Tanya Johnson Turner. She's like, can you have more than one spirit animal? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Yeah, you can. It's just about developing relationships with them. Some of them are for life. Some of them are for a season. Some of them are for one experience, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Just like if you meet somebody at a festival or a show and you have a wonderful evening together and you learn a whole lot, but you never really connect again after that. That it's the same way. Some of these come into your life forever. Some are just for a season or two, and some are just for that one experience.
Mm-hmm. And also, I was talking to her before you came back on, is being in the allowance for your spiritual guidance to evolve as you evolve. Because as I continue to evolve, my spiritual guides, my spirit guides are nowhere the same as where they started. Many of them have changed form in some sort of way. And what I attribute that to is as I gain a stronger connection or relationship with my guidance, it becomes more apparent to me. So it can shift or change form. And I don't try to stop that. I've actually had people come to me who have been on long-term spiritual journeys, and they're in that space where they feel stuck. And when I start to ask them about, like, how's your practice? Do you communicate with your guidance often? Are you open to those things? Do you have a relationship with these things? Like, yeah. And then we kind of get into, have you ever noticed any evolution of your guidance? What do you mean? Have they changed form? Has anything happened? Because that could be a sign sometimes that you're not allowing yourself to evolve. Sometimes people, and I think that's kind of a normal thing, sometimes when we develop a relationship with this spirit, it's like it changing. It brings fear sometimes into the mind of the person. Like, well, this is going to be something unfamiliar, instead of being open and allowing the guidance to kind of evolve. So that was something else I kind of pointed out too, is, definitely everything's about relationship when it comes to spirit. You're not going to communicate with spirits unless you're creating a relationship. Another way I say that is a neural connection, a connection through your lines of energy. When I'm communicating with a guide, the first thing that's happening is I'm making a communication. Usually for me, it's some sort of energy exchange. I send something and then I receive something. And this begins this communication, the giving and taking communication. And as that kind of happens, it becomes second nature and I don't have to think about it anymore. It's just kind of an intention. And then that spirit can show up and be here with me. And the more that I work with that, that's stronger, bigger, wider. It's like a root of a tree or a plant. It gets stronger and stronger and expands. And your awareness and your connection to this being, your connection to this piece of light becomes more and more profound.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the things is even, and I'm just using this because culturally we in the Western world have a high, and because it's Holy Week also, but we have a high idea of Jesus in our culture. And so Jesus comes to you and has a communication with you. And one thing you have to understand is Jesus is only going to communicate with you on the level that you can communicate and that you can understand. And as we elevate our own energy, that allows a more elevated side of these spirits to present themselves to us. So it is something that changes and grows, just like a relationship between Anthony and I changes and grows. And we're not going to always be the exact same Anthony and the exact same Zane every time we meet, because we're all huge multidimensional beings.
I've watched you turn into about 14 different Zanes since I've been in contact with you, which in human time is like 3 years or so. So I've watched you. There's times where it's fucking blown my mind. They'll pop up. I haven't seen you in months. And then the video pops. I'm like, who is that? What is that? Look at the poke. What is going on there? There was definitely one, I think it was at the beginning, just before we started the last mentorship program. And you popped on and your whole field was just glistening with this whole new kind of level of white energy that I'd never seen before. And I was like, what is that? Like, your energy was singing. It sounded like a monk or something. It was really far out, but that's happened. I've already witnessed, just like everybody else, everybody in our IU, all the people I work with all around the world in this community, in the vast community, all those things. I've seen so much evolution and change. It's like mind blowing. It's like, wow, you never know who's going to show up. This version of Zane, I've never seen this one before. So this whole new version has popped up. He talks different. He acts different. He's doing different things, has new ideas. I like this version a lot. I liked all the versions of you, but so far this one's my favorite.
Well, I'm working on the brand new model here, and I'll be, launching that soon. No, I don't actually think of it that way, but yeah, absolutely. We change and we grow, and it's beautiful to watch that change and that growth, and to allow our spirit guides and other spirits to change and grow with us, because they will. And sometimes they change and grow with us, as in maybe you outgrow one of them. That's no shame. That's nothing bad. Or maybe you grow into a brand new one. And also the ones that you have, they'll change. Their energy slightly changes. Why? I see it as we elevate our own consciousness. We are able to receive a more elevated version of that spirit. And since that spirit, especially if we're talking about a spirit guide, it's kind of signed on to work with us. It means that it's signed on to work with us wherever we're at and to help us from that place. So as we grow, it seems to grow as well.
Let's see. Angelica, no matter how sad or angry I am, when I sit with horses, I feel good, peaceful, and loved instantly. Does that mean it's my familiar, or is it horses' energy? I can tell you a little bit about that because I work with a woman who actually runs a retreat center in near Toledo, Ohio. And she runs this for veterans. And part of the thing they have going on there on this farm is equine therapy, something I was never really aware of too much until this woman popped up and we went out to visit her out at this farm. And I got to be with her and the horses at the same time and really understand and feel the energy. The equine energy is something that for me is almost beyond the ability for me to like intelligibly explain in human language, but it definitely has a beautiful feeling of healing. When you connect to the heart of that giant heart of that horse, when you allow yourself to open and you can feel the horse's energy field, you can feel the horse's heart beating, something amazing happens. In that moment, I personally felt healed, very grounded, very connected to the earth. And also kind of what started to come through is like ancient forms of like human technology started to move through the horse as well. Like almost like Native American energy started to move through this horse. It was a particular horse, I think, but it was connecting in such a beautiful way. And so they have like they use these horses in equine therapy. Some horses, I've seen people now that have pretty severe PTSD, they start to put their hands on the horse and they're kind of guided how to connect with the horse and touch the horse. And you can see them start to just kind of purge. They're just starting to purge, like the horse is helping them to ground. Like the horse's intelligence is teaching them how to ground themselves. And they're starting to take, and all their hoochas starting to fall down and start to make contact with the earth. And it's like very amazing. Now, I don't think it works for everybody. It has a lot to do with where your mindset is, what you can handle, all kinds of things like that. But what I got to witness there with that equine therapy was really amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful. You know, in many of the traditions of the world, a horse is a very powerful spirit, not as a spirit animal, just as a animal that has a spirit. It has a unique quality of spirit to it. And I would also say llamas have a unique quality of spirit. Sheep have a unique quality of spirit. Deer, antelope. And the unique thing about these cows, buffalo, the unique thing about these, though they're very powerful energies, you know, the physical energy of a horse is very powerful, you know, way more powerful than the physical energy of a human. They dwarf us. But yet there is this thing where they don't think of things in terms of power. And, you know, it's just like in the Andes, one of the highest animals to try to be like is the llama. And why do we want to be like the llama? We want to be like that llama because it gives of everything for its human shepherd. It gives of the fur off its back to make the clothing for them. Its dung is used to burn for fuel because you're so high up, you can't burn wood. It takes forever to get wood lit up there. So you're not so what you do is you collect the llama dung. And it's also how you build your houses is by mixing mud with llama dung and pushing it between those blocks, and that creates a mortar. And it gives of its milk to feed the babies. Now, when the mother's not around, it can have llama milk, and it gives of its milk to feed us. And then when times are rough, it gives of its life so that we can go on, so that we can butcher it and eat it, so that we can survive through that lean period of time where we don't know how we're going to survive any other way. And it does all of this with an open, loving heart. Humanity doesn't do that. So that's why these traditional cultures, the Mongolian culture with the horse, and later the Native American culture when the horses were reintroduced here. The horses come from North America, but they were pretty much eradicated. They vanished here, and that horse made its way to Mongolia. And then through Europe, it came back to this land. Imagine that. That's an amazing circle, that horse energy. Now we think of humans traveling the globe. That horse traveled the globe, and it came all the way back, and it's always had a relationship with humans. Horses, cows, deer, all of these animals, and they always represent the highest part of us. Like a deer represents oftentimes the Christed overself, the Christ energy, you know. So it's really beautiful when we look at it that we understand that these animals that are prey animals, and they show us so many different things. They show us how they can be hunted, 5 minutes later, shake it off, and go back to being completely peaceful and happy. You know, they show us this quality of life energy, this quality of living. And in that way, they're very beautiful, and they calm us. They really do, because we have a relationship with them. You know, we have a relationship with them, just like the relationship with dogs and humans. Humans domesticated dogs because we wanted them around. Then there's cats and humans. Well, humans didn't domesticate the cat. The cat domesticated the human to take care of it. And this is how these relationships play out. I think it's beautiful that we humans can form a relationship not just with our own species, but we can form meaningful relationships with other species. And we can go into that world. And that is a testament to a spiritual quality within us.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Being able to connect, because it's understanding that all of this is it's all one intelligence, and we're meant to co-combine. We're meant to be able to communicate with all forms of nature, all forms of energy, even things we perceive as like inanimate objects. They have a living energy field. Like, I'm always aware, like, I can pick up kind of anything and pick it up, and I can feel its aliveness. So you can just find the aliveness in everything around you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. Tom Thompson says, our cats are definitely spiritually connected with us. My little white kitty is a hoochie eater and cups up on the desk to search the screen when the energy is strong or really pure for one of my connect.
Yeah, cats are amazing with that. Cats really are comfortable with the astral energies and with things that are not of this dimension or reality. Dogs sense these things too, but dogs will warn you about it. They'll be like, hey, something's wrong. Cats are like, yeah, that's my friend, Yeah, I don't really like him, but he sometimes comes through here. Cats have a different experience of reality. It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jessica says, I feel that living animals cross our paths many times and they come and go. Some stay. There are spiritual teachers, in a sense. Amazing stuff. Love this. Makes me remember all the time Spirit has come to make me remember. Constant conscious choices.
Absolutely. Yeah, we live a beautiful miracle, this life is, and if we can respect it for what it is, and we can, really realize that the only illusion out there is what we project onto reality. The reality is something real, is something beautiful, but we project an illusion of our own inferiority, our own fears, our own insecurities, and we project that onto our reality. When we can get clear of that and we can start to see reality, maybe not clear of it in a way that we never feel fear or anything again, because these are natural things. We're supposed to feel them sometimes. But when we get clear in the way that we can feel it and it doesn't color our lives anymore, it can just come and go and be like a spice. And we can say, ooh, I need a little bit more of that. Maybe I need just a little bit more fear today, because just a little bit more fear is going to get me where I need to be in life. Where without it, maybe you just wouldn't get there. The ingredients wouldn't be right. Or, oh, I just need a little more gratitude today. Just a little more gratitude is gonna spice everything up. It's gonna make life just so much more beautiful. And if we start to look at it that way, that's really what it's about. Our feelings, and especially our emotional states, are spices of life. Our feelings come and go, and they shift really quick. But we can create emotional states. And why do we create them with these thought forms and stuff? Because they can help us to do things. But we have to remember that's why we're creating them. And we have to remember the mission we're giving these things when we create them. And that's us living in our responsibility. Otherwise, we create these things and we become bad parents to them. We pay them no attention. We don't give them any instruction on how to help us in our life. They go off the best information they have at the time that we created them. And you got to think about that. Sometimes we created these emergency states. Sometimes we created this emotional thought form based around a trauma that we don't know how to handle. So we basically create a spirit because we have that power, and we say, you go handle it. Now, we haven't given it any additional information, and if we never do, then it will be a faithful servant and always pop up, but it's going to do the best it can within its realm of experience, because that's all we've informed it with. That's all that we've put into that narrative, that contract with it. So we really have to do the work to discover why we created emotional states of being and how we can use them positively in our life. It's not about getting rid of things. You can't lop more and more things off of you and become whole. You know, it's really about how do I integrate what it is? Why is it there? And it's not always, oh, I understand now, oh, it can unravel and go away and it's all better. Sometimes it's, oh, I understand now. Oh, I have a deep responsibility to this. And when this comes up, I have a job. I have a way I need to behave at that moment so that I can make the most of the opportunity it's bringing me instead of feeling driven by it or in fear of it.
And variety is the spice of life. So
yeah,
I feel a variety of feelings, a variety of emotions is what I love so much about being alive. I don't look at anything, even though the name of our company is the Positive Pineapple, I don't really understand things as positive and negative. That's not how I understand or see it. I just see it as it happens. I might judge it. That's I don't think anything's wrong or bad. I think everything that I experience in this reality is precisely what I need to. And with that mindset, I never lose. There's no way to lose. It's impossible. It puts me right at the beginning of the show where I said, Zane, how are you? He said, well, I can't complain. Hey, me either. I wouldn't even try. I wouldn't even want to complain. Why would I even want to put energy into complaining unless it was something I needed to do, unless I felt that was something that had to happen? Because I don't try to condemn anything that I feel. That as I go along the journey, I find a lot of beautiful energy within these things that I used to call bad, heavy, or negative. I have a hard time even thinking that anything's actually wrong or bad. And that kind of makes me pretty weird for this reality, because I know that most of us are, I know my old self, my old versions, definitely there was a dividing line in between. This is good and this is bad. That's the judgment. I just don't really understand it that way anymore. I may not like everything. I may not feel good about everything. I may not even agree with everything, but ultimately I have no choice but to accept, because it's only through non-acceptance of reality is the only way we suffer as humans. You've never suffered one time when you were in agreement with reality. Me neither, and no one will. If you're in agreement with whatever is, you cannot suffer. It's impossible to suffer because you're in complete understanding. This doesn't mean there won't be pain. I always say, I guarantee you there's going to be pain. I'm sorry if you don't like that, but I guarantee it. There's going to be lots of pain, and that's okay. But it's understanding that the pain has to show up. It's something that needs to happen, allowing it to be with you, allowing yourself, don't stuff it down, don't push it away, don't discount it, don't be unloving of it. Allow it to just be, allow it to be with you. See what it can give you, see what it's going to teach you, because it's understanding. And for me, that's the deepest form of faith, knowing that whatever happens, it's totally going to be okay. For some people, they'll say that's detachment. It's however it shows up is okay with me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you pretty much, just wholeheartedly there. You know, and I know you don't mean this when you say that, but for anyone who gets the wrong idea, it's not that you can't say this isn't right for me. We have the responsibility to say that's not right for me,
Right.
but we don't need to judge it as wrong for the world or for someone else. We can just say that's not right for me. That's not getting me where I need to go. So I'm not going to get down with it right now, you know, because that's not right for me. And that's you standing up in your authority. That's you being sovereign. And that brings more power of coherence between the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave, which is what we're trying to do in this world, basically, is to create this coherence between the three bodies, the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body. And if we can create that coherence between those three, we start to live an authentic life. And like Anthony says, it doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It doesn't mean you won't get sick. And it doesn't mean you won't die. All these things are unavoidable. You also are going to pay taxes, unfortunately. You know,
Not would carry water.
Yeah, you know, it's just part of it is part of the reality, but we get to choose how we respond to it. And that goes back.
Shit. Zane, it's your turn. Oh, Zane choked. He froze up. I thought we were going to do a beatbox battle. Oh man, I think that's like 4 or 5 lockouts. We're getting late now. I think we're going to start getting ready to wrap it up. But hold on, y'all, before you leave, what we're going to do is when Zane comes back, I'm going to ask him if he wants to do another mini meditation. I'll lead us into a little breath, and I'll ask Zane if he wants to lead us into some sort of mini meditation just to like close out the last little bit of the show. If you watched last week, we had one, and it was awesome. It was powerful, and Mary's actually made a snippet video of that. So that's going to be amazing. What were we just talking about? Shit, I don't remember what it was we were just talking about, but that's okay. Maybe somebody can remind me. Tom says, I saw groups of wild horses in Wyoming all the time when I was working in the high red desert. They had no fear of us. Why would they? They'll just clippity clop you up and down. Oh, that's what Zane was talking about. What he was kind of pointing out is what I say. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything. Like, if something's happening and you're saying that's not for me, that's okay. That's you not agreeing. What you do have to do is accept, especially that other person's kind of way of being. Welcome back, Zane. You know what we just had? We just had a beatbox competition because the way your mouth was looked like you were. And so I started beatbox. I pointed at you. It's your turn. I was like, oh, Zane choked. Beatbox battle's over.
Yeah.
Battle.
I just didn't have it down.
So then I was just kind of saying, like, yeah, what you're saying, that's kind of the way I explain it is you don't have to agree with everything. If it's not for you, don't do that. That's your non-agreeance. But what you do have to do if you don't want to suffer is accept that it exists. And that might be that person's point of view or whatever's happening. You can have acceptance is always the key. If you can just accept it without any resistance to it, now no longer is it a problem for you. It doesn't mean you have to get, like you were saying, you have to get down with it. Like,
yeah, you don't have to get into something that is wrong for you. And
right.
That's important for people to know. You know, it's not about giving over. Being in acceptance with things isn't giving up something.
Correct.
It's not giving up your authority or anything else. It's just a mode of looking at life. You can look at it from acceptance and just be acknowledgeable that all of this does exist. So it's beautiful in some sense, even if you can't see the beauty in it. But you have every right to say, that's not right for me. And you have every right that if someone is harming someone else to say, hey, that's not right, you know, and even step in there if you feel like it's necessary. You know, that's really what it means to be a sovereign being. To be a sovereign being doesn't mean that you are judging everyone else out there. It means that you're judging the moment. You're discerning in this moment what is the correct action for you and your soul in this moment. And that's something that is your responsibility to do, and as you do that, what you're doing is you're making it easier for everyone else to listen to their inner guidance too. Because when they see anyone do it, it makes it easier for the whole collective. And you teach them how to do it just by your own energy field, by you making a decision and saying, hey, that's right for me. That isn't right for me. Hey, you know, that creates an energetic vibration that allows everyone to stand in their power. At least gives them an example of someone doing it.
Right. And then allowing yourself to be okay when someone else doesn't agree with you. Like that's really important. That's also really important because we live in a world where if we don't see it the same way or agree, we can't be friends anymore. That's how it is. Instead of like, really, that's how you see it. Tell me more about that. Not knocking each other down like you're a fucking idiot because you think that kind of thing. Like, oh, really? That's really intense. Kind of how that is. You know, the sharing information, I think, is a lot more important than trying to everyone. You know, because people say this a lot. I'm looking for like-minded people. I'm not. I prefer if you don't think like me. It's better if you don't think like me. I want you to think like you. I'm looking for like vibration people with vibrations that are vibrating in a consciousness that is similar or above mine. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that consciousness to draw together all the rest of it. I'm aware it all works together and it can all merge together in a beautiful way.
Absolutely, man. That is it. You know, that's it. Beautifully said.
Thank you. Angelica says, it's like trying to help someone without this person wanting your help. Yeah, you can't help anybody who doesn't want your help. That's impossible.
Yeah, you might as well not even try to help them because you're going against their free will,
Yeah.
and instead respect their free will. They don't want to be helped that way, and then decide what that means to you.
Right.
Also,
Why do you need to help them? Why do you think you need to save somebody? I know a lot about this because it started off that way for me, because I had, like, I call it the born again Christian phase, when you pop out and a whole new level of consciousness rises within you. And then for me, it was so big because I was able to heal and recover from death, essentially. And I was like, well, shit, I want to save everybody, especially the people you love, right? And that's part of the challenge here in this human form, is generally the people that you want to wake up and be free as you are not the people that's going to happen. And that's on purpose, because it presents a challenge for you. It presents that challenge. And also, it's not wrong that you can't really mess up. I don't look at reality as like I make mistakes. I don't agree to that. I agree there's steps to things that needs to happen. I can call them mistakes, but that just disempowers it for me. That's kind of what happens. I don't really look at it that way. But looking at that level of yourself, when I look back at that version of me, I'm very grateful, because it made me understand about me. It was about me. I wanted to save them because how I felt about myself. That's where it came, because I felt like I needed saving and I didn't know. That's kind of what was happening, even though I was free to some extent. But bringing awareness into, like Zane said, what does this tell you about you when, you want to try, when you feel like you need to save or rescue someone? It's different if there's a kid in a burning building. Go in there, rescue that person if you can. But if someone's just venting to you about all the bullshit that's going on in their life, and they don't want to hear anything out of you about trying to change it, don't try. Leave it alone. And the biggest thing I learned is wait for an invitation.
Yeah, and one of the things that people just never get, because we like to be active. We're born in a culture that's all about doing. Sometimes when a person's bitching, when they're complaining or whatever, really all we need to do is listen. And don't try to shift it for them. Don't try to do anything else. Just listen to them. And if it doesn't feel right for you to listen to them, then don't listen to them and leave the room, leave the thing, because it's not right for you. And understand that might end the relationship you have with that person. That might destroy the dynamic that's been built up over the years. But you have to do what's right in your own heart. And in the end, oftentimes when people are complaining and everything else, that they're only doing that because they feel safe. They feel safe with you to complain to you. Now, you don't have to hold the container for them to complain all the time. That's where you have to be strong in yourself and say, well, that's a boundary I'm going to put here, because I can't be the best me if I always listen to you, if I always let you do that. And then you might realize that really you're wanting that relationship to change. You're wanting a new dynamic, and you're needing a new dynamic. Like Anthony was saying, oftentimes, especially when we first awaken, when we first wake up, we just want to wake up everyone that we love around us. What we don't tend to understand is they represent who we were, not who we've become. And they may be people that you're letting go of because you have let go of that part of yourself. You haven't lopped it off. It just has come to its natural death, and you have been reborn as another version of you. And maybe they can't live within that vibration you have just created. And that's okay. Let them go live their life, and don't torture them with growth. Don't torture them with trying to elevate them, because they don't want to elevate. They're like you that didn't want any of that. So it's not your responsibility. And if they ever come to the place where you can help them grow that way, they're going to ask you. But even then, you have to really say, is this for my hands? Is this for my hands? Because old relationships, it have a groove that has been worn into them. And the second we step up into that relationship, it doesn't matter how much we've grown, we will feel a magnetic pull to go back into that groove, because that's where we relate. And you want to know what? They're doing the same thing. They might have grown in ways that we don't even know, but when we're together, we only know how to relate to each other over here. So we both slide back into that groove to relate. And, that's something we need to know and need to acknowledge, that that's the way relationships are. And sometimes in our life, it's not mean to anyone for you to decide, I'm moving forward with my life in this other direction. And I know that that might mean that you won't feel comfortable being around me, and I won't feel comfortable being around you anymore. And that's okay. We have to learn to accept those moments and not try to control it, not try to, one of the things that happened in my life is that I made a bunch of vows like, oh, I'll always be your friend. I'll always, and it meant so much for me to live up to that, to live up to my word, because my word is something that really matters to me. And so I put myself for many years in situations that I should not have been putting myself into because I had made a promise that I wanted to uphold. And then one day I realized that promise isn't helping me grow and it's not helping them grow. And I'm not being a good friend by staying in that dynamic.
You're actually the good friend by allowing the dynamic to change. So you did hold up to your bargain. You allowed yourself to evolve and go beyond there, because that's a limitation of the mind. I could say, Zane, I'll always be your friend. That's absolutely true. We just might not be in this form of friendship forever.
Exactly.
Yep. We won't. I'm aware of that. It'll evolve somewhere or another. Wherever we're at now is temporary. And I like to be in that space to enjoy it. It's enjoyable to be in whatever space there is. Knowing, for me, for some people, I think it brings a lot of fear knowing things are impermanent. For me, that makes it more exciting. So that way I'm giving it more attention. Like I'm sure some people, like my cat, say, you look at your cat. I think a lot of people look at their animals and they think, I know someday you won't be here with me. I'm fully aware of that. And I'm sure I'm going to be sad when it happens. But you know what that does? That makes me love my kitty more right now, because I'm not living in that space. I'm living in this moment. It really brings my attention to it. And I think we can do that with our friendships as well, as paying attention to what's happening in that kind of present moment. I think also another thing that kind of happens too is as you evolve, if the people around you are not evolving, they hold you to the character in which they've created in their mind.
Yeah, so that's the old groove.
Right. That's the groove. They hold you into this old paradigm in which they've created, because you're not responsible for any version of you that someone else creates mentally. That's their creation. So if that person is not evolving, I like to look and notice the evolution of everyone around me. I feel like almost I can help foster that through my attention to it. If I can see the beauty in your change, that facilitates it even more. That opens it even more. It makes it more alive, because now there's more than one being kind of paying attention to this. But when you're when your consciousness is arising and you're around predominantly more unconscious people, they are going to hold you into a character in which they think they know you. They're not allowing you to evolve, because, like how we were just talking about spirit guides, if you're not evolving, your life doesn't evolve in any sort of way. Your relationships, the people you think you know, all those things, if you're not evolving, you can't allow any of those other things to evolve. And then you end up repeating a cycle.
Absolutely. Yep.
Sally Knuckles, cool name.
I love you, Sally. How have you been?
Sally Knuckles, great stuff. Thank you, dear.
Sally is one of my dear friends. Back in like 2007 to about 2009, I first met her down in Charleston, West Virginia. She ran Mountain Mamas. We did all kinds of great things there. Then she became the minister of the Arlington Metaphysical Chapel, and I used to teach there and do some services and stuff with her there. So beautiful. I love you, Sally. Great you're here.
Thank you for sharing that story, Zane. I can feel the beauty of that. Thank you. Missy Bitker says, so glad I stumbled on you two tonight. Such great messages. Thank you. A Nike. Thank you so much, Missy. Tamala, speaking about people you know for a long time. I think me and Tamala became friends in about, I don't know, like 7th grade, something like that. Good to see you, Tamala. Don't be the garbage truck that collects everyone's garbage. I always say, nope, my trunk has already been emptied for the day. That's one way, I guess, to handle things.
Yeah.
Angelica thanks us both for our wisdom. Jessica Covey says, wow, the timing of this message is incredible. I'm so happy. I couldn't hear something better than that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Monica Chain, hey. Well, Zane, we're almost at 2 hours, so I was thinking maybe we could finish this episode again. Maybe do you want to lead a short meditation of some sort? I'll start us off with some breath. Do you have time for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, would you like to do that? Okay,
sure.
Good. All right. Well, let's begin now. Everybody, if you join us, please, for this mini little breath and meditation, what I want you to do is I want you to first just bring your awareness into your body, where you're sitting, and make yourself comfortable. Scoot yourself around, jiggle around in your seat a little bit until it feels just right, until you feel like, I'm really supported. I feel really safe and supported where I'm at. And then I just want you to let your hands kind of be open. I like to sit with my palms open. And what this does for me is this invites, I'm in a space of invitation. And you can invite to you any energies or frequencies or light that's around you. And you can open that up even further. Don't be afraid to call in whatever you perceive as your highest power, whatever you feel is beautiful and glorious and sacred and holy. Use any of those words. It is a holy week. If you're a Christian, you can call into Jesus, call him here. I love to work with Jesus. Call in any energy you want. You're calling it into this space. And what we're going to do is we're going to begin to breathe. I want you to breathe deep and start to fill up your belly with air and let that spread like a wave up into your chest. Hold it in your chest. And as you exhale, your intention is going to be let the air out through all of your pores. And it begins to fill up your aura, your energetic field, your bubble of light. And as you breathe in, you're breathing in the spiritual energy in the space. All the animals and beautiful energy we were talking about and summoned here, and expand your bubble with it. You're breathing in belly, chest, head. And going out with a pursed lip exhale. Your intention is to send that wind, that energy into your bubble. How big can you expand it? Use your mind's eye and your disciplined imagination. And blow up your bubble big and round. Feel its light. Just a few more. 3 more. 2 more. And 1 more. Exhale your air and pause. Hold your breath. I want you just to take a moment just to be here in this space, right here, right now. Feel the vibration in your hands and your body and the bubble around you. Become aware of all the beautiful and delicious spirit energy that is around us, that envelops us. And if you want to, you can ask for contact. I'm asking for contact, and as this happens, I feel aliveness in my hands, as if I'm holding hands. And allow yourself just to hold hands or connect with your spiritual energy in your space, in your bubble, in this beautiful container in which we've created. And just take one moment just to be here, just in this moment. Taking a slow but very deep breath in, big as you can. Fill up your whole body. Hold it. And release it very slowly. Deflating. Your body deflates like a balloon going flat. And as you breathe in, nice and slow, fill up your balloon and it stretches, and release it slow. And once more, big, strong breath. Hold. And release. Allow yourself to just drop into this moment right here. And Don Zane, as you become ready, please guide us.
Breathing in to a count of 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Breathe in. In that moment, there was a part of you that noticed that you needed to take a breath in. There was the franticness of the body to breathe in, but there was an awareness outside of that. Think about that awareness that just observed you needing to take a breath in. Make a deeper connection with that awareness. That presence. That is your journey body. That is the body that goes on journeys. It's not the analytical mind. It's not the fanciful imagination even. It's this other thing that visions just come through. If you want to work with power animals, if you want to discover your spirit guides, cultivate that awareness of the observer, of the witness. This is the side of yourself that befriends these spirits. It happens in the moments between breath. Make a strong anchor to that place, to that sensation, to that divine presence. And now coming back up into ourselves and into the room that we're in, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. When I reach the count of 5, you will open your eyes, feeling awake, alive, and alert, happy and healthier than before. 1, 2, coming out slowly. 3, and when I reach the count of 5, you'll open your eyes, feeling awake, alive, alert, happier and healthier than before. 4, 5, eyes open, feeling awake, alive, alert, healthier and happier than before.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Don Zeno.
Thank you, Don Antonio.
Wonderful show. Thank you so much for soaring today. I think we covered a lot of different information today, and it was fantastic. I'm grateful for all of you that have come here and watched and support what we're doing here. Also, for anyone that wasn't here kind of earlier in the show, Zane, if you could kind of just reiterate the things you have going on, promote the things.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have a 7-month apprenticeship that's half live and half hybrid that is starting this 3rd weekend of April and will run through November up at Goddess Elite, out of Goddess Elite, but it's also partly online. And that's any of you that are wanting to come to that would be a great thing. It's very beautiful. We create a wonderful container and we dive deep into this Andean tradition. Also have another run of the Modern Shaman's Diet that will be coming up right around the same time. That's an online program and should be in May that we will be starting the next fully online run of the apprenticeship program with the mentors.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And I fully recommend any teachings that you can get your hands on that Zane does, do them. I've done the apprenticeship. I'm also a mentor of the apprenticeship, not the hybrid one, but the other one I'm involved in. I think Zane's stuck. Shit. He's stuck again. What's he saying now? What's he doing? I don't know. What could we say? We're going to just take him out of there. Yeah, so I recommend that. I haven't done the Shaman's Diet either, but I've had some of my students go and do Zane's Modern Shaman's Diet, and they really loved it. They said it was really good. It's not just about food. It's a total kind of 30-day transformation kind of thing. I can tell you that the people that I work with, a few of my students that did it, it was transformational. I don't recognize them as to where they started. So Zane's a very magical, powerful shaman. He has beautiful wisdom and things to share. So please check him out. And if you need help navigating and finding any of this information, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to message me and I'll send it to you. Also, the next thing I have coming up is a workshop. So this workshop's open for everyone, regardless if you have experience in any spiritual form or not. This is for spirit guide, connection, and communication. So I'll work with you to learn how to open yourself up to be able to connect to your primary guidance. And that'll be kind of the first part of the class. It's sort of like an initiation. You're being initiated into new lines of wisdom and energy. And then we'll have an intermission. It's about 3 hours long. It's going to be 3 to 4 hour long workshop. And then there'll be an intermission. And the second part of the workshop will be communication. Working with communication, and it's through communication with your spiritual guidance is how you begin to develop your relationship with your spirit. So I'm looking forward to that. And like I said, that's open to everybody. You don't have to have vast experience or anything like that. But even if you are already on a spiritual path, you've already made good connection with your spiritual guidance, I still would invite you to come into this class because that can evolve and that can change. And when you're in a collective group of energy, you can really start to create new kinds of frequency and connection within there. Donzano, you're back. I was just telling everybody that they should take your classes. That's what I said.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
And I was talking about the Modern Shaman's Diet, and I was just kind of explaining that it's not just about food. It's not just a diet. It's kind of a transformational kind of class and program. And I mentioned to them how I have some of my own personal students who I've sent there to do that, and they've transformed. So it really does work. It's the real deal. Check that out.
Yeah, I love it because it's just a month. Actually, it's 35 days, but
okay. Of course it is.
Yeah, it's always a little bit longer with me.
Yeah, it should be a 30-day program, but since I'm Don Zano, it's 35. That's how we're going to do. It's going to be a 7-month apprenticeship. I'm just kidding. It's 14 months. Just kidding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you said it at the beginning. I'm the same way. It's like a fly by the seat of the pants thing. Yeah. So Totally. So just be on the lookout. I'm sure Zane will have more stuff coming up. I got lots of stuff. So in the last probably couple weeks, the downloads I've been taking, I have about 22 different workshops I'm going to host. So I have 22 different things ranging from very complex and probably requires a certain amount of skill and experience to things just like spiritual guidance and communication, something that's very simple for you to begin to, one, it's learning, it's like an initiation. You're learning how to connect to living energy. And that's the first part. The second part is developing your relationship. So we'll have all kinds of different stuff. Mary, I got some really amazing things I can't tell you about yet, just like Zane can't tell you about. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to what's next, Zane. I'm looking forward to, man, boy, am I full of life. I just feel so full of life. And it's been perfect because just a few weeks ago, I was feeling really heavy. I was unsure about what I wanted to continue, what I want to do, all kinds of those things. But all that stuff's been renewed in me. And, you know, you're part of what makes that happen, Zane. And I love you. And I thank you so much.
I love you too, brother.
I'm so glad that, you know, the intelligence of our spirits have brought us together. And, what can we do? All kinds of awesome stuff. I know we will soar. I know that.
Absolutely.
Everybody, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank you all so much for coming out, watching these shows. Everyone who watches in the future, feel free to leave comments. Reach out to Zane. Reach out to me. We want to hear from you. We like to interact with people. So feel free. Anything else, Zane? Anything you want to add?
No, not really. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you do. I think it's so needed in this world. If any of you out there listening to this feel called to Anthony and you think, oh, is it right for me? I would ask you to just go ahead and try it. Go check it out. And you know, because his energy is very beautiful and he really holds a beautiful space.
Thank you so much, Zane. I appreciate that deeply. I love you all so much. I hope you have a great night, and we'll be back Wednesday after next. I'll be on tomorrow morning for the Shaman, 8 a.m. I am also open to anyone that would like to be a guest tomorrow at 8 a.m. So anybody that's interested and wants to come on and just kind of explore things, you're welcome to come on. I'm not going to question you, nail you to the wall or anything. I'm just going to bring you on and we can hang out. So that's open to anyone. Just reach out to me. Donzeno! Anaiki kuyaiki.
Nike.
Bye-bye.